This is Kurt West. I'm a detective with Lane County Sheriff's Office. At the present time, we're conducting an interview with Elizabeth Diane Downs. Present is Douglas Welch, also a detective with Lane County Sheriff's Office. Diane, you know this conversation is being recorded.
Yeah.
And I asked you to come down here to look at some photographs of some individuals. We are in the criminal investigation section. You have been called a suspect in this case, and we are talking to you about facts in this particular case. So under those circumstances, I'm just going to read you your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be against you in a court of law. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned and when you are required to face witnesses. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you if you request one. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand each of these rights I've explained to you?
Yes.
Having these rights in mind, you wish to proceed without a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. And as I said, you're free to go at any time, but however, we are going to be discussing
Today's date is July 22nd, 1983, and the time now is 15:43 hours.
I'm about to show Diane a photo lineup showing 6 individuals. On the outside of the lineup, a disclaimer says the suspect may or may not be displayed in this series of photographs. Do not feel compelled to select any photograph.
Okay.
Okay? Just look at them carefully. And
A burly looking bunch. Oh my gosh. I'll eliminate 3 of them real fast.
which 3?
1, 4, and 6.
Okay.
Not 2. Those to curl. I'm not going to pick any of them because I'm not absolutely positive, and maybe it's just that pictures look different than moving faces.
Do you think that if you saw this guy on the street today, you could recognize him?
You want the truth?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Everybody says I would. They said as soon as he walked up to me, I'd flash. But I don't know that I would.
Everybody says,
Everybody. People have asked, okay, I speak generally, I'm sorry, I do that a lot. I also speak for the people. I make assumptions that people feel ways. But anyway, people have asked me if I would remember the person, and I said, I don't know if I would. And they said, oh, sure you would. That's something you wouldn't forget. If you saw him again, you would know him. Well, I don't know that. I've never been faced with something like this before, so I don't know that I would know him again. And I'm not going to say that for sure somebody is the person if I'm not for sure. Because after what I've just been through, and I know I'm not the person, I wouldn't put somebody else through that unless I was sure.
do you feel fairly comfortable that none of the people depicted in that lineup,
No.
that photo lineup,
No.
you don't feel comfortable?
No,
In other words, you
5 looks real close.
Does he?
Yes.
Okay.
But not enough that I'm going to say, hey, that's him. Because then you guys would start doing to him what you've done to me. And if he isn't him, I would put pity on him. I mean, not that you guys really haven't been that bad. It's just that you took my kids from me. Pass it off on CSD, okay. CSD passes it back to you guys. my kids are paying. But anyway, 5 looks real close.
Well, why don't you set that down there for a while and glance at those periodically. We have been talking about some people you consider to be enemies.
Yeah, this tape is still working.
Good. And you have given me 3 names of people who would be the most likely candidates to do something like this to you and your kids. From the beginning again, why don't you go ahead and run that by us and tell us what motives, if any, you think those people had.
Okay. This is our 4th try, you know. So I may forget things, remind me, and I will rephrase them.
Okay.
Steve Downs, my ex-husband. I divorced him 2 years ago, and he hated me for that. Even before that, I got pregnant with Daniel by somebody else, not him. And he's not the biological father. He hated me for that. It destroyed his character, disgraced him to his friends that I would do these things. He tried for the whole 2 years to try and get me back together. I never did go back with him, so he hated me for it. What can I say? I don't know.
Okay.
That's a big motive. As far as his relationship with the kids goes, excuse me. As far as his relationship with the kids goes, Christy is a very obedient, well-mannered child. She would do anything you asked without asking twice. It makes it easy to ignore her in some cases, and because you don't have to yell at her. And it's the reason she got ignored by Steve is because Steve, it just proves again that Steve didn't have any real love or feeling for the kids, because the only time he spent time with the kids is when Cheryl was being reprimanded, because Cheryl was so hyper and breaking things and getting into stuff and climbing on chairs and hanging on people, and he used to yell at her and just give her hell emotionally for it. And there were times when he was physical with her, too. And so Cheryl got lots of attention, Christy got none of attention, but all the attention Cheryl was getting was bad, so that's not good. Danny was a completely different case altogether. He wasn't biologically Steve's, and the whole time that I was pregnant, Steve was vicious with me. And when I finished being pregnant, Steve hated Daniel. Matter of fact, when I was pregnant, he said, as long as you have a girl baby, we'll see what happens. But if you have a boy, you're both out on your ass. And I said, fine. Well, Danny turned out to be a boy, and Steve hated him at first with a passion. Whenever Danny would cry, he would scream for him to shut up and stuff like that. He even told me to leave. And then when I said fine, he said, no, you can't leave, because then it looked like he had failed and this person that got me pregnant had won or something. It was just another blow to his ego. And so he was torn between wanting to get rid of us and destroy the evidence of what I had done, and at the same time, he didn't want to look like he'd lost. And it was a real turmoil inside of him. Like I said, he's a complex person. It's not any one thing that would make him hate me. It's just everything all together makes him hate me more and more.
Okay. Let's go on to number 2.
Greg Welch. Before the tape comes up.
Greg Welch is who?
Greg Welch is Steve's best friend. They've been friends for about 5 or 6 years, I guess. Maybe more, I don't really know. They feel the same things. They're like clones, like I said. If one feels it, the other feels it. If one does it, the other does it. If one can commit a crime and get away with it, the other one will do it. And I don't know why they're like that. They just do. They're like a step ladder. And they keep pulling each other up. And Greg hated me while I was pregnant because he hated me most of the time that he knew Steve. It was almost like a jealousy, because Steve would rather spend more time with me than he would with Greg, because we were an obligation. We were a family. He had to come home and spend time with us. And so Greg didn't like that because he was younger and single, and he wanted Steve with him. And so he wanted to split us up. When I was pregnant with Danny, Steve told Greg that Daniel was biologically somebody else's. And Greg hated me even more for that. And during the last part of my pregnancy, Greg used to call and hang up whenever I answered the phone, trying to make it sound like a girl was calling and hanging up. And Steve found out that it was Greg doing it and told him to knock it off. And Greg told him, well, the best thing that could ever happen to you is to get rid of her and those kids and that stupid thing she's pregnant with. And so that was Greg's attitude about me and the kids. He didn't have any use for us at all. Then, when we got our divorce, Greg was very pleased, hung around with Steve a lot. He tolerated the girls being around sometimes, but that was basically it. It was a toleration. Didn't really like them. And Daniel, he put up with Danny because Steve liked to take Danny places, because Danny's a jewel. He's an angel. He's smart, he's bright, he's fun. Steve would take him places. It was a showpiece for him, and so Greg put up with that because it made Steve happy. And when I brought the kids up here, the kids were never going to come back to Arizona. The kids and I probably would have stayed here for the rest of our lives. And we didn't need Steve. He was not part of our life. There was no use for him. And Steve knew that. He knew I felt that way about it. And Greg knew that I felt that way about it. When I came up here, Charlene, which is Nick's wife, we'll talk about her next, called Steve up. And Nick was supposed to be joining me up here. And so she called Steve and tried to do something to make Steve angry enough to force his hand to do something to bring the kids back, thereby bringing me back, thereby Nick would still be his wife, Nick would still be her husband, and I would still be his mistress, but at least she would have him. So she started railing on Steve about how could he let his kids leave the state? Why doesn't he turn me in? Well, the kids were in my custody. They were my kids. So he didn't have the right to keep the kids, but she did that to him, and she just really tormented him, I guess, with it. And he says, well, there's nothing I can do about it. The kids are gone. And perhaps that aided him, but Greg, on the other hand, was probably elated that they were gone, except for the fact that Steve was probably upset about it. So Greg was upset about it. And Steve had lost 3 girlfriends because he has kids. And now that Greg has a girlfriend or a wife, I don't think people get married anymore. Now that Greg has a girlfriend and a baby, and he's settling down to, I guess, being sort of a family man to an extent. He still has his girlfriends and stuff, but, you know, he has somebody to sleep with every night type attitude. He wanted Steve to have the same thing. Well, Steve lost 3 girlfriends because of the kids. So if Greg could eliminate the kids, it would release Steve of his responsibility. Then he could get a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, and he would also punish me at the same time because I would hurt because I love the kids, and Greg knows I love the kids more than anybody, so he would be getting even with me after all these years. He would finally be doing me in.
Okay. Let's talk about Charlene.
Charlene Knickerbocker, she's Nick's wife. Her main motive, it's still going, it's not quite half over. Her main motive is the fact that Nick loves me. I can't say love. Nick loved me. We have been together for a year, and it was an affair. I was his mistress, and that I'm not ashamed of that. It's just the way life is sometimes. He made me happy, and I made him happy. He left Charlene several times, and he physically moved out on her twice, and almost 3 times. But every time he went back because of an obligation to her, or for whatever other reason. And he would go back to her, but within 2 or 3 months, he was always coming back and saying, I'm sorry, I'd rather be with you. And it was just back and forth like that. And it probably always would have been that way, except that the next time Nick decided that he'd rather be with me, I'm here. And therefore, Nick would have to either move up here or bring me back there. But if Nick moved up here, Charlene and her family all lived down there. And she would have no reason to move up here except to follow Nick. And I think that that would hurt her pride. It would hurt mine, I think. But her motive would be that if she destroyed my kids, she would destroy Nick's desire for me, because Nick is a person that doesn't like complications. He doesn't like hassles. And there's nothing more complicating than a murder. And no matter who gets murdered, no matter who does the murdering, if it was my kids that got killed, Nick would never want to talk to me again, let alone be a companion with me again. And at the same time, she would destroy me.
So those are the three people that
yeah.
you feel would be
Most likely.
most likely
Yeah.
to commit a crime
Yeah.
like this. You mentioned earlier to us that this individual talked to you,
Yeah.
referred to you by name,
Yeah.
and also referred to your tattoo.
Right.
Can we get into a little bit more about the conversation he had? What,
I don't-
as close as you can remember, what did he tell you?
I don't remember.
Okay.
All I know is that he used my name. I don't remember most of the conversation. I don't remember most of the action. I remember seeing Christy get shot, and that's about all. And I remember getting back in the car and driving to the hospital.
He threatened you, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the threat was words to the effect of what?
I don't remember, but to the effect was that if I said anything to anybody that, and I know that you're waiting for me to say they, because that's what and I almost did it again. But every time I start rambling and I start talking about it and thinking fast, I say they. So I don't know if there was a they. I remember a he. But what I said was...
You only saw one person there.
I only recall seeing one person.
Only recall seeing one person. Okay. Anyway,
Maybe there was another person there, and that's what I'm blanking out. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't pretend to try to understand it. I'm totally confused. And
I cut you off just a second ago. You were going to say something about words to the effect.
that if you say anything about what happened here, that they'd come back and kill me. And I don't know why I said they. It was just something that popped out. Maybe he said they. Maybe he was alone and he was referring to the person that sent him. Maybe there were 2 people there. Maybe there were 5 people there. I don't know.
Was there other conversation besides this, and you just don't remember it?
I'm sure that there was. Because he said that I was supposed to keep my mouth shut and not say anything. And there must have been something for me to say if he was threatening me not to say anything. I mean, I don't know if there was other conversation, but it makes sense, because there'd be no reason to say that if there wasn't. See?
So if this person knew you, referred to you by name, and referred to your tattoo, do you feel that it's logical to assume that this individual was sent up here from Arizona?
I would think so, because there's nobody up here. There are only a couple of people up here that know about my tattoo. My parents didn't even know about my tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Steve told them when he came up here.
Mm-hmm.
But only a couple of people up here knew him, and they were my best friends. And they would have they weren't my enemies. I've only been here for 6 weeks, and like I said, I have a way of getting on people so that they hate my guts or they really like me. And I haven't been here long enough to get any enemies. And so the people that knew about my tattoo up here would have no reason to do this. So if they referred to my tattoo, that means they must have come from Arizona.
Okay.
Or were sent from Arizona.
How would they know where
Now the kicker.
I know. We
The
were
kicker.
just going over this when you came into the room earlier. How would they know that I was going to be on that road? I don't know. I have no idea. Nick and I discussed that. And you're right, it makes absolutely no logic. If I was set up, how would somebody know I would be on that obsolete road? I haven't got the foggiest, except like I was saying, when I went to the hospital, shoot, that arm doesn't work yet. When I went to the hospital, I told the Springfield police or whoever what happened. They wanted me to go back out to the scene. I said, fine, I went. Then, as we were driving up Old Mohawk Road, it flashed that there was a yellow car there, and that it wasn't there now. And I said, wait, there was a yellow car. And he said, was this person driving the car? And I said, I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't see him in the car. the car was just parked here. And he said, are you sure it was parked here? And I said, yeah, I think so. I passed it. So I don't know. I don't know if Burks asked me the other day, was I followed? No, I don't know that I was followed. But who looks to see if you're followed?
Do you remember being followed after it happened? Could he have run back to that yellow car and followed you?
I don't know. After I got in the car, I don't remember anything but Christy. And seeing Christy.
Wait a second, if you were followed, how could they get somebody in front to wave you down?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it in the least.
The whole thing's kind of bizarre.
It is.
I mean, the whole case
The whole
is bizarre, but
situation,
that
yes,
thing
it is. All I know is I can tell you, you said that anything that I can remember to tell you, okay?
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit in, well, damn it, you siphon it out then.
We'll work it
I'm
out.
just telling you what I remember. I remember a yellow car, and it seems important for some reason. It was important enough that when I told the story the way it happened, and I didn't say anything about it, it was important enough that my mind said, wait, there's a yellow car when we went back out there, and I just knew I was going to go back to that same, and I could see the trees, and I could see the bends in the road, and I would be seeing again my kids getting shot. And it was something, my mind was just fighting with that, and the yellow car was there. And my mind just said, hey, a yellow car, whether it meant anything or not. And like I was saying, at the time, it's so weird. At the time that the person threatened me and said that I wasn't supposed to say anything because I would be killed, I didn't say anything. And for some reason, it didn't seem that it was somebody that knew me. And I don't know why, because that's insane, too. It was, I mean, it's like you're both ways. You know that the person knew you, but you're confused because you've never seen that specific person before. And you're so concerned about your kids living or dying, and one of them did die, and you've got so many things on your mind. You're so psychotic. You're so flipped out about everything that you've seen, everything that you've felt, and maybe your mind just doesn't let you feel that it was your fault, even though it was somebody that hated me that much that did that. And so you block out the fact that it was somebody that knew you, even though you know that it was somebody. This isn't making sense. You're making faces, but it does make sense. Even though
I don't understand. You mentioned something about it being your fault.
Somebody hated me enough that they would do this.
And
So it's my fault.
because of the way you are, that they begin to hate you, that's the reason this happened. In other words, you said earlier people
I mean,
either like you or they hate you,
right.
and the reason
And
they
somebody that liked me would never do this.
and the reason people hate you is because you tell them what they think.
Yeah, I always
And because
do.
this happened, this
Therefore,
shooting happened. Okay.
I really don't need to hear that, you guys. Steve does that on the phone to me.
Therefore what? Oh, you don't like the word therefore.
Therefore it makes it my fault.
Okay.
I hate that. I can't stand it because
Okay. While you were there, is there anything else that's clicked or flashed with you about
no, that's
what
what
happened at the scene?
That's what I was saying. At the time that it happened, even though I knew that it was somebody that knew me, it didn't click or whatever. It didn't register that it was somebody that knew me because I didn't talk about it.
And on the way to the hospital, you began thinking about...
All I remember was the highlights, the things that I could remember.
But you obviously were afraid to tell us.
That the person used my name because that was the last thing that he said.
That was the last thing you said.
Yeah, was don't say what really happened. Don't say, I don't know what he said. Something about don't say that, don't say. He just said, I don't know what it was. I don't remember what it was.
Were you still standing outside the car when you said that?
Yeah,
You hadn't gotten back in the car,
No.
but you had been shot.
yes.
Okay. And so on the way to the hospital, you began to think, well, I don't want to tell the police about what he said
Right,
because you were
But
afraid
right.
of retaliation.
right.
Okay.
But I told you what happened.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell you that the person knew me.
I'm
I don't
still not real
understand.
clear on that, why you never told us, because we had,
Because he said he would kill me.
okay, but we had armed guards on you and the children.
I didn't know that you would do that, Kurt.
We had the armed guards on you and the children before we ever interviewed you in the hospital. I mean, we interviewed you that night at the hospital.
But I had to go home from the hospital.
That was quite a few days later.
I didn't know that. Can't you put yourself in my place and quit being a detective and just be a person?
I am a detective,
I
I am
know.
a person, and
Before
both
you were a
things-
detective, if
both
you're my...
things tell me that that's just not right. Something's wrong there. I mean, if you had fear for your safety and your children's safety, it would seem to me that that would have been the best time when you had all the policemen around, armed guards on both kids, and you saw that for several days, armed guards on yourself for several days. It would seem to me that would be the safest time, not now. Now, yeah, he doesn't have an armed
I
guard.
have said this over and over.
You don't have an
and
armed
over.
guard.
Correct, but the person has no reason to come get me now because you guys are chasing me. He
They
couldn't
don't
be
know that.
safer.
They don't know that. We're still showing pictures in
He doesn't know that.
the newspaper.
So, it doesn't mean anything. You guys are still calling me a suspect. With the alleged attack. Who in the world would feel safer than the person that did this?
It's not an alleged attack. I mean, there's
I know.
there's no question in our minds that somebody shot those kids.
I know.
Um,
But in the paper...
Okay. The keys.
Yes.
When you-
No.
Go ahead.
No.
No.
I feel very uncomfortable right now. And I think probably because you guys are becoming so unreceptive. You're getting tired, I'm getting tired, and I really think that a later time would be better. You're being impatient. And I'm not a person, like I said earlier, I'm not a person that says I'm sorry very often. I'm also not a person that has a lot of patience with men. I have very little patience with men.
we're getting more information, and we're getting anxious.
I
obviously.
know.
Okay?
It's kind of exciting, you know.
Yes, it is, and it's scary. I think that
How's that big thing?
it's still going. I can hear it.
It's still going. We got a couple minutes left. But what I was going to ask about was the keys.
Yeah.
They hit the barrel of the gun.
Keys didn't hit the barrel of the gun. My hand hit the barrel of the gun.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood then.
Like
I thought you heard it clink.
the keys jingled. They were on my finger. When I take the keys out of the car, I always, there's only 2 keys on my key ring. House key, car key. When I take the key out of the car, I put them on my finger so that I don't drop them.
Yeah.
So, don't ask me why I do that. I do quirks. I don't know. You guys question everything that I do. Why are you breathing today, Diane? I don't know.
Okay. Did you get lost? You got lost, that's why you turned right off Sunderman Road. Is that right?
No.
Okay. You're going to have to straighten me out on that, too.
I
then.
wasn't lost at all. I turned right off Sunderman because we were going to go, when I first got here, about a week after I got here, so my dad took me up up Marcola Road. Hold on.
We're not change that tape.
Yeah. We're going to go off tape at 16:10 hours.